Peace, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to Black Intelligentsia. We here today to have an interview with my brother, Knowledge Born God Allah, and he is the host of Do the Knowledge Radio. If you're looking at the title and everything, I'm basically giving you the title without reading it verbatim. But we here to talk about the Ballad of a Dead Soldier. So you here today, and you will be hearing about the Ballad of a Dead Soldier. Yes, this is a lyric and a song title to Tupac Shakur's, music, and he has a lot to do with this conversation today and stuff. So hopefully y'all can learn something as always from these broadcasts and things that we bring over here. We are currently in the middle of doing a summer urban empowerment tour with Black Intelligentsia, and if you would like to come over and share some information about how to empower the Black urban community and everything, then feel free to get in touch with me at israeldoctrine@gmail, and we can have you over and you can talk about things, to help us as a people and empower us as a people. But without further ado, I want to turn the show over to my brother Knowledge. We're going to go back and forth. We know each other pretty good. So, whenever I feel like I need to step in and ask a question or get some more insight for you all, because you're not here to ask the questions or look for that insight, then we're going to do that. But besides that, I'm turning the show over to my man, Knowledge. Peace, what up, bro?
Peace, Israel Doctrine. Peace to the family. Peace to the listening audience of Black Intelligentsia Live 365. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to be here with my brother. And this is one of the premier platforms that gave me an opportunity to speak and also to promote the collaborative effort, which we, from our inception of our platform, Do Now's Radio, was able to come here. Uh, Myself and along with a couple other people, brothers and sisters that we work collaboratively with to bring that platform, the African-centered platform, New Knowledge Radio, here. So it's definitely always an honor and a privilege when I can get the dialogue, with my big brother, Israel Doctrine, and support whatever initiatives that this brother is standing behind. It's a righteous brother, one with a good spirit and a good character, and we're able to do things together. Initially, this is day. This is the third day that we get an opportunity to speak about this particular topic. Just from another vantage point, I wanted to give a shout out and a salute to Renee Black and Psychopathia with the rundown with Renee and the Psychopathia channel. I was on that platform on Sunday. Uh, Yesterday, I was on My Skin is My Sin, so salute to Queen Afi and my brother Jobs and My Skin is My Sin radio yesterday. And today, get the honor and privilege of speaking with my brother Israel Doctrine here on Black Intelligentsia. And tomorrow, I will be on Black I Stand Radio with my brother Jay Dizzle, one of the most revolutionary internet radio broadcasts, Black I Stand Radio, collaborative effort, liberation minded media, and all of the folks out there that are truly serious about using the talents and skills that the Creator and our ancestors had endowed us with for the empowerment, upliftment, reconciliation, and reformation of Black people. So, what I really wanted to speak about today, and it's really apropos because uh, my brother Israel Dodson and I, first came up with this concept. Uh, I think about a year or so ago, and this was the first platform where we introduced this, cinematic assault on the African family through the entertainment industry, through film, through the music, and the like. So we're back here again, to really speak to something that is age old since this, inception and advent of this film that has been sweeping across the globe, entitled Black Panther. Blockbuster smash, netted over. $1 billion, and continuing to grow. What was strangely outside of the film was a very well put together film. Salute to the director and that beautiful warrior mind, Ryan Coogler, and the cast coming together to put on a pictorial image of African greatness in regards to art, in regards to technology, in regards to the sciences, and an ode to a way of showing the warriors of our ancestors, that warrior spirit of our ancestors, when insurrection was staged in the face of oppression, in the face of domination, to be able to see us pictorially in those lights. However, there were some subtleties that are age old in regards to using imagery to distort the image of the black family as a whole. And it has been done artfully and very subtly through, the entertainment industry as a whole, but the films more specific in regards to using imagery to either distort or using imagery to outright exploit and show our people in a manner in which that is unnatural and unlike who we are and who that legacy that we descend from. So, in order to kind of counterbalance that, we have these dialogues and these discussions to critically analyze what's really being conveyed when we see imagery in regards to our people. So definitely, looking forward to this dialogue with my brother around this particular topic, and how these images have been used in the past, and they're no different. The thing that I found uh, very alarming in my study of the interviews of the film and what was actually being said and conveyed about the film is that they had framed the brother Inchidaka's character, the one that Michael B. Jordan plays, termed Killmonger, as the the greatest villain in Marvel comic universe history. They call him the greatest villain. So, that would be something that if you would look at it and say, hey, he did an excellent job with the film, and, he did his homework, he did his research, his interviews were thought provoking, he was very challenging, and he really painted the picture. So we really resonated and, with that character and all of these things that he spoke to. It was brilliant, and all of that. He was in great physical condition, and he commanded the respect of the audience from the inception of his character in the film until the end. However, this is a young black male. This is a young African man whose father was killed, and they made no mention of his mother in the film. And he is seen as an enemy to our people. He is seen as an enemy to our people on the continent and as an enemy to our people here. There's these other strange things. So when they talk about the greatest villain in Marvel comic universe history, they talking about the enemy that is the young black male. And it's very apropos when we look at the Ballad of the Dead Soldier and we look at, Tupac's life. The same type of imagery. This young brother who moved to Oakland, who was a chairman of the New African Panther movement, son of Afeni Shakur, being used with the same type of imagery and even coming up with, the help and the aid of Matula Shakur with this thug life and the code of the street. And if you look at the film and you see the relationship between Inchidaka and Jobu, his father, he was his father's son. And his father, was sent, as the film would project, to be a spy or a war dog, from Wakanda. So he was sent to Oakland, and seeing with the time and the day and the time and what was going on, how he couldn't sit idle and see these atrocities happen to people who look just like him, and not be in a situation, knowing that he had a tool that could help them liberate, help them overthrow their oppressors or their enemies, and sit idle. So this type of situation, you know, created a spark of resistance within him, and this is something where the outliers of the film had to show him in a space where you don't get to live long when you stand up for black people, when you're in the cause, in the fight for the liberation and salvation of black people, whether it be here or on the continent or anywhere around the globe. So he was killed subsequently, and killed by his own brother. So how much of that story is translated from the film to our reality? How much of Njobu and Shadaka's character, how much of T'Challa's character and T'Chaka's character is translated? How much of James's character and all of the characters in the film that are painting an artful picture of elegance and grace and power and intelligence and fearlessness and boldness, but how much of that is translated to the diasporic African or black experience, as well as this type of situation that's going on into the continent? How much of this is real life, and how much of it is art? And this is the art and the science that is used and misused to represent us in a way, but it's not new, and it's not limited to the Black Panther film. We were looking at the correlation between from the movie's Dead President's Time to this current time, and the militaristic cinematic assault on the African mind as it presents itself throughout the years. One of the greatest tools that has been used by our enemies is what we know natural as black people in regards to how we convey information and how information resonates and how it's highestly retained, and it's retained through story. So this, Black Panther character that was in the comic book, they told us a story of a warrior king. We did not see that same warrior king in the film. So the tool is disruption. The tool is agitation. The tool is to plant a seed where which you present two family members with discord, and someone is in the middle of both of them, whispering into each other's ear, playing off of their fears, playing off their disconnection, playing off of their loss, playing off their non-attachment to one another, and no sign of responsibility to one another in a condemnatory type of situation. So someone has to stand in and be the voice of reason and the critical one to be able to say, we are not enemies of one another. Our enemy is using us to be enemies to one another. And these are some of the things that are projected through the entertainment industry. The lack of innocence and all of these things that have been robbed based off of this cinematic invasion, this subliminal seduction of the mind of African people. And we are left with the discord. We are left with the dysfunction. We are left with the inclination towards individuality versus collectivism. All of these things that are subsequently unnatural to our way of life, from the same thing that is most enriching and most impactful to us, most informative to us. It would be our story through a story. But we're dealing with a people that are in an identity crisis. And in this identity crisis, we are crying out to be restored. And we're going to means other than ourselves and through our ancestral lineage to get those voids filled. So, with this type of climate that we're in here, all over the planet right now, in regards to this, hypersensitive racial climate, behold, there comes a film. There comes a film that you would see from an outside view that would be something that would be empowering, that would be uplifting. However, the subtleties that go along with it, you know, kind of do more harm than good. We're looking at a futuristic society, the most technologically advanced society, all of these things that are there, all of the greatness and the things that they're able to do. And as in comparison to the world and also to our enemies' counterparts, they are in the Stone Age in regards to these technological advancements. But the outward appearance would show you something that is hidden in plain sight. So, with our lack of knowledge of Africa, we would see Africa in the primitive state, in the Stone Age type of state. So we become as the onlookers, we become just in the same level as the tourists. We, in regards to our cultures and to our traditions and to the brilliance and the wisdom of our ancestors. And we have our enemies to thank for this because they champion this, and what the film showed, more subtly than anything, is what type of African or black person or black family that they would accept versus the ones they could not accept. And the ones that they could not accept, it ends in their death. It ends in our death and our devastation. So this humanitarian aid, utopian, uh, inclusive type of approach. This is the only type of, African man, woman, and child that they would accept. Reflective of the neo-colonialistic uh, influence in the leadership that is reigning, supreme in the continent, and that same type of, leadership that is reigning supreme here in the Americas amongst our people. So that pacifist type of approach. And this leads to many, many, many losses of African life in the process. Hence the Ballad of a Dead Soldier. You could take a warrior and change the warrior into a villain who is standing for the cause of the liberation and salvation of the same people, being condemned by the same people. And you could look at a film and you could be cheering for your own destruction if you're not careful. Because anyone who purports, go ahead, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how you relating the Ballad of a Dead Soldier with the character Killmonger, who was based up and grew up to be a Killmonger? How are you relating the Ballad of a Dead Soldier, the movie Tupac, and just our conditions as a whole? Because we're still warriors, we just don't know what fight or what we should be entertaining, as she's saying.
Right. That's an excellent question. When you start looking at Tupac's life, born in a prison cell, born in bondage, as many of us who are here in the Americas born in bondage. Uh, father not in his life, mother committed to the liberation and salvation of black people. And was in that same type of position, that same met with that same type of opposition. Yeah, y'all remember her from the Panther 21 trial, and you look at his aunt, Asada. You see what I'm saying? That all of these conditions that are right for warriorhood to come out of these conditions. So these young warriors that are growing up, these are who Tupac described as Brenda's baby, the baby that she wrapped up and threw into the trash can, that rose that grew from the concrete. So when we have an understanding of what was being projected and what was being presented, you went from, keep your head up to hit them up. So there's a same type of synergistic vibe that is being dealt out there, through this entertainment industry to paint a picture of enemy, public enemy number one. Tupac had albums called Me Against the World. All eyes on me. You understand what I'm saying? Are you still down? And he said out of his own mouth, no matter what city he went to, all the police knew who he was. The vice president knew who he was. The president knew who he was. You see what I'm saying? This was a young black male, a young black man who transitioned at the age of 25. So between the ages of 18 to 25, between the ages of 18 and 25, a 7-year time span. He was shot 13 times. He was in prison. You see what I'm saying? He came out with all these albums. All of these things happened in a 7-year time span of his life. He went from leadership and, Panther movement to prison and the like. This is the like and the likelihood of the people, the products of the diaspora here in the Americas. This is the life that we live. This is the life that we live through poverty, through fatherlessness, through broken homes, through abuse, through chemical and biological warfare, environmental racism, direct racism, police terrorism, land grabbing or gentrification, all of these things that we suffer through. All of these things create a situation where you have a killmonger. The only way out of, in order to give your family a better life, many people, join the military ranks. You see what I'm saying? They join the military ranks, or they join some kind of, space or place in the government. Contrary to when our ancestors went. Our ancestors owned property, owned land. They had a stake in this place that we call America, so they went to defend it. It's a complete opposite situation where everything is taken from you, and your birth begins in the trash can, wrapped up in the trash can, to a place where you're abandoned. Tupac came out, with Thug Life. The hate you gave little infants, fucks up everybody. And then fast forward, you have a young thug with a dress on saying that his name is Young Thug. So a child or a product or a byproduct of the hate that you gave little infants, these are the little infants that you're talking about. These little infants, our children, now even more lost and more misguided and more angry about everything because they did not get that opportunity in that proper rearing. They didn't get that instruction. So they're doing more drugs and they're doing more killing because they're angry. So that same warrior spirit that we had is multiplied by 1,000, but with no direction, with no guidance, no leadership. And you see that in the film when it comes time for him to assume the throne, and he goes to the realm of his ancestors. He's back in Oakland, in the same place where his father was killed and left for dead. He was left for dead. Just as Brenda's baby was left for dead, just as many other brothers and sisters here in the diaspora are left for dead. So this whole thing, really revolves around this. And, Tupac made predictions. He told us that we wasn't ready for a black president, and we had one. And was we ready? Hell no, we wasn't ready. You see, I know it seems heaven sent, but we ain't ready to see a black president. We wasn't ready. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of, closed off the effect of what was really going on, and for the world to see that plight. You can't be talking about racism. You can't be talking about, police brutality or police terrorism or gentrification or land grabbing with a black president. It can't be that bad. We see all of these videos of people hopping out of Maybachs and, living, lavish lives in mansions. So folks in third world countries is watching like, what is these black people talking about in America? They living it up. I need to get over there. They millie rocking and dabbing and, all of these things that are being projected through this same imagery, damaging the psyche of the person that is representing and the person who is ingesting this. You see what I'm saying? At the end, this is called a mass casualty type of situation. where the psyches of the onlooker is just as affected as the person that it's affecting, because it gives them a false sense of reality. You know, we always speak about the Matrix, and Queen Mother Sophia Stewart put it in the mouth of Morpheus. If you die in the Matrix, Neo asked the question: if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life. Yeah. So now we're seeing this advent of machine consciousness or virtual consciousness, where the implications of the virtual type of situation or this viral life causes you physical harm in real life. You're taking pictures, and putting them on the internet. The next thing you know, the police is at your door. You understand what I'm saying? And out of the midst of this killmonger type of situation, what preceded that? What chaos preceded this order right here? This BIE talk. You understand what I'm saying? So, before that, it was public enemy number one. But before that, it was the thugs. You understand what I'm saying? So all of these whole things have a carry on and a significance that is carried through and carried out through these type of cinematic bombardments that are very subtle. The videos and the entertainment industry decide how you feel about yourself, and how you feel about your woman, how you feel about your children, how you feel about your family, and the connections thereof or the disconnection thereof. So it's a lot to go, into. Even if you look at that film that they call Poetic Justice, what was poetic about this justice right here? So it was a situation with this type of situation, dealing with loss and with pain, and over here dealing with loss and pain and this inability, all of these things that come together. You see what I'm saying? Oh, you was about to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the cinematic world and the relationship of it with the Tupac Shakur. Ever since Juice, he was a rising, cinematic person in the
Right.
movie industry and everything. So he was basically going to be the one that played certain characters and, show the depths of the young black male, just like he was doing in music and stuff. So can you go over the movies that he was in, the movies that he was supposed to be in when he got to fighting with the Hughes brothers and got kicked out of a lot of different things because they didn't agree, and they had the riff. Can you talk about these things in the movies that preceded this Black Panther that didn't get the love that it got, but yet it's set an industry standard now as the #1 movie of all time. So could you speak
Right.
on the cinematic universe of blackness?
Right. So, you got a situation like the Marvel comic universe. And then you got to ask the question, who are they marveling? Who were their characters created after? Stan Lee was in the film Black Panther, and it's a Stan Lee creation. They were at that gambling table in Korea, of all places, at this casino, and Agent Ross won, and Stan Lee comes and say, "I'm gonna hold on to this for safekeeping." What was he talking about? What was he talking about? We got $1 billion film, and I'm gonna get to the question that you asked. We got $1 billion film. We got it being sold as a majority black cast, the majority black actors, majority, a director, and all of these things. So you would have, African people coming in droves and African garb, drumming, celebrating Wakanda forever, and all of these other things. These are the things that are on the surface, but hidden. They would see the same atrocities in the film that they experience in real life and foreshadow what the real intention behind the film was. So it's no different than this type of situation where they would have a person that's in the industry, such as Tupac, or and it'd be no different than NWA that had "Fuck the Police." And how many times has Ice Cube been a police officer in the film? Tupac, shot 2 police officers. What was he doing in gang related? He was a police officer. See what I'm saying? Trying to set up somebody for a murder that they committed. You see? So, when you start looking at these films, when you start looking at Juice, and Bishop was a product of his father serving in the military and coming home basically a vegetable after war. War had traumatized him. So he grew up in a war-trodden, war-torn home, the same type of home that he grew up in that Panther environment. As a result, these long-term effects and this, chemical agent that came and ravaged our communities and destroyed our homes. So this same type of environment would produce a situation where you're looking for respect by any means necessary. So you had to kill in this environment in order to get respect. You had to kill. So once he got that gun, he found a situation where which to be what Dr. Francis Cress Welsing said about the gun, to our enemies is the grand equalizer. So this feeling of inadequacy, this feeling of not being accepted, this feeling of not being respected changed with the advent of this little tool right here, this tool of destruction that he was using. So the respect that he wanted to earn so gratefully throughout, this film. And many of us wanted to become Bishop or took on those Bishop characteristics. So you had Bishop and you had GQ and you had Steele and you had what was my man name, the light skinned cat?
Raheem, whatever.
Raheem, yeah, Raheem. You see what I'm saying? So you got the one that was the leader. What the name? Raheem, the merciful one. So I mean that's things that go along with it. But we were cheering like we were cheering for Scarface. We were cheering for Tupac as Bishop. That we was cheering for Wesley Snipes as Nino Brown. They all died. We was cheering for Alonzo in Training Day. They all died. You know, you see what I'm saying? Like this is the end. Like this type of situation or these type of people cannot live. You see what I'm saying? This is what's being projected. This is what's being pushed out there. You see? So this type of situation, that we find what they wanted Tupac to be a menace to society. Who is this menace to society? Who? This young black male that comes from this black family. So the black family is public enemy number one. This menace to society. We had a brother, Sharif in the film. You know, we had brother Sharif in the film, whom we related to the brother that was in Boys in the Hood. His character trait was ex knucklehead turned Muslim, somebody who sought to improve himself and was around his friends with a duty and responsibility like our ancestor Harriet Tubman. She had found liberation, but she couldn't have peace while others were still in bondage. So he was trying his best to get his brothers and sisters out of this way of life and what he termed the devil's plans. So he had cleaned himself up and he was trying to get his brothers and sisters to clean themselves up. And he was the first one to die in the film. He was the first one to die. And the one that was doing all the killing in the film ain't died. He didn't die. He was a minor. He just went to juvenile. So you see this whole type of cycle that tell you which one that they can keep, which one that they can control, all of that. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot of these things that go on, and when you parallel that to Tupac's life, you get all of these things that in situations where a killmonger is created. his respect to the black woman would be something that would come back that they could use as a tool in his real life to incriminate him, to have him incarcerated, so to take him off of the scene, back to the place of his birth. And all of these things happen. You know, and nobody speaks about the community programs that was set up. The treaties that he was able to establish, and all of these other works. All of these things get overshadowed by the imagery, and this imagery is painted and pushed out there to you, systematically to be able to assassinate that character. If you listen to the beginning of Machiavelli, all of these things happen. These were all systematic, type of assaults that happen. They say verbal assaults. They made the East Coast West Coast war like the East Coast West Coast Panthers. They turned a rap situation into a situation that manifested into real life death. Real life death. People died because of what was said on the rap song. You see what I'm saying? So these things are easily controlled and subliminally put out there and pushed and projected on to our people, and then we'll look at our people for the enemy that's responsible.
Yes, yes, most definitely. And as he would say, his embryo was cultivated in prison. He was actually born out. His mother was let out a little bit before the birth. So his embryo was cultivated in prison.
Right. I mean, the same thing back with the place of his birth. That's this, like, even if it was on the outside, our ancestor Malcolm X he said, if you're born in America, you're born in prison, you're born in jail, you're born into bondage. You see what I'm saying? So, like, that same type of perception and personification, and it's artfully chosen. You could look at, an event like those young brothers who was at Starbucks. They went to Starbucks for 2 minutes and they left in handcuffs. They went there for a business meeting. They messed around and got there 10 minutes early, and they was in handcuffs. They was in handcuffs before the person even got to the business meeting. You see? So, whatever the case is, this young black male, this image, these images of this young black male, this gives another credence in a further licensing, with this BIE claim. This gives another credence in a justification. And, our people sit around with their arms folded like they should have bought something. What was they doing there in the first place? These are the type of things that we only ask in absolute in regards to one another. But through this artful display over the years of this entertainment industry, robbing and raping the minds of African people, you see this. You see this projected out there. You see what I'm saying? So, whether it's me saying this or whether it was Sister Soulja saying this, any of the brothers and sisters who came along in this line, great line of divine before this time, was speaking on these social ills and injustice all over the planet. We just look at it, through this, creative lens, because this is where they begin to have the corrupt type of situation on how they report the story. And we receive the story on a deeper level than most of the people on the planet. So it goes along with this process.
CIA aspect of, the Battle of Death Soldier, for his Tupac, for his Killmonger, for his the agent that was in there, and what side he leaned to more, or what side leaned in their hand to him. You say the integrational aspect of things. So if you can, tie the two, and you kind of, go into that area, I think the people would like to hear what you have to say about, the CIA aspect of all of this.
Huh. So whether you look at and again, these things were popularized, and I wanted to speak to something quickly. If you look at the movie Dead Presidents, they were in Vietnam. They were in Vietnam. So what was America's interest in Vietnam? If you look at American Gangster, you can see America's interest in Vietnam. If you look at Afghanistan, you could see America's interest in those other 42 to 45 different nations that are in Afghanistan currently and what their interest is over there in Afghanistan. You see what I'm saying? With these young black men and women have been traumatized and ravaged with this military life. Homes being destroyed and people not even being brought back to form. Not even able to even be whole. So again, even this ballad of the dead soldier extends further to those who lost their lives in war. You see what I'm saying? And back to our immediate attention right here in the streets, those who lost their lives in the war for Chicago, the war for Detroit, the war for Flint, Michigan, the war for Houston, the war for Dallas, the war for Fort Worth, and the like. You can just fill in the blank. You can fill in the blank. Whether it was through, bad food, lack of water, clean water, all of these things that we would once see, you know, within the framework or scope of the third world country has now come to home. Uh, our ancestor Malcolm X said the case of chickens coming home to roost. So when we start to look at the CIA operatives, in the film, they have T'Challa saying, "Wait, I see an old friend, a CIA agent." Can be an old friend. Since when has the CIA been an old friend to Africa or the Africans in the Americas? Who is responsible for the ravishing of the community through chemical warfare? What's our relationship between North and South America? What's our relationship between the cartels in Chicago? All of these relationships that are there that are interconnected and interrelated and interdependent upon one another for their thriving success. How would you have a New Jack City? You see what I'm saying? How would you have that all of these relationships that are there and that are connected and that are related? You know, you look at, American Gangster and they tell the teller Frank Lucas over there in Vietnam, but they won't tell you Robert F. Williams' relationship to Vietnam. When you're looking at dead presidents, when you hear over the loudspeaker, "Black man, go home, it's not your war." These leaflets that were left there, that Anthony, the character Lorenz Tate plays in this film, sees on the ground, and he's ordered by the lieutenant to put that down. You see what I'm saying? Robert F. Williams and his organization was responsible for that. Responsible for, educating our people around the world. But there's no, Robert F. Williams because, Robert F. Williams would be marked as, somebody as a killmonger. You see what I'm saying? Nowadays. So this type of behavior becomes treacherous to the people who are monetizing and thriving off of Black suffering. You see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of relationship and correlation to the destabilization of the Black nation based off of these external influences, which manifest as internal influences. You have an immune system in your body, and the function of your immune system is to fight off foreign entities and agents that try to come and take over the body. We have now become in a position where which the immune system is now used out of whack and out of balance to be the agent and the weapon and the purport to attack the body from the inside out. So now a function of the body now has dominated the body in a way where it begins to destroy the body. So when you start to look at a chemical dependency or interdependency on a controlled substance, who's controlling the substance that's entering the body? You see what I'm saying? So it's the same thing, whether it's information, whether it's technology, all of these things become something with addictive type of qualities to where the real you starts to get controlled and destroyed by the artificial you. So these artificial entities are now entering the body and they have taken resonance in the host body and the parasite host relationship. And now they're interdependent on one for survival, and something is in your body that you're dependent on, you're addicted to, and you know it's killing you. You know, it's like drinking a glass of poison every day. You see what I'm saying? So this is what's happening with this relationship in regards to this type of situation, this type of environment, and our relationships with the enemies of our people. You know, so whether it's, you know, the FBI counterintelligence program, the CIA out there working across the globe to stage coups in nations, and you know the militaristic arm, you know, which are the war dogs for, you know, the government who go around to these countries, but they're told the story as well. You know, there's a counterinsurgency program that's implemented and shaping the minds of soldiers that prepare them for combat, that prepare them to go into, they call the war stage theater. So this is what goes on because the world watches this thing being played out the same way you go to a theater to watch a film. So this whole film is being played out on the stage elaborately, and you have people playing their roles. These are the roles that are being played out here on the stage, on the screen, and it's entertainment for the people who are looking at it. So there's a bunch of things that's associated with it, and our connection to it ends, you know, ends up with a casualty type of situation amongst our people. So trusting these old friends, you can call him an old friend and you could kill your cousin. So your cousin is more of a threat to you than this CIA operative. This is what's being translated in the film. This is what's coming out. You know, so you know, our mistrusting of each other and our trusting of our enemies, these bloodsuckers who have come and gave nothing but hell and death and devastation to to African people all over the world and people in general. You know, these are what's seen as the friend and the one who seeks to liberate, you know, you from that type of control over your mind, over your being, those shackles of those mental shackles. You see what I'm saying? Those physical shackles, those emotional shackles, those psychological shackles, they have to die for you in order for you to get it, in order for you to resonate with them. So, you know, there's a lot that goes along with that. And there's a lot of, you know, ramifications that go along with that. There's a lot of, you know, killmongers that said, you know, at the end of the film, you know, bury me, you know, in the ocean with my ancestors who jumped because they realized that death was better than bondage. You know, so there's a lot of that was going on. You know, Tupac said, you know, death around the corner. You know, bury me a G. You understand what I'm saying? Like all of that, all of these things that were going on. You see what I'm saying? You know, all eyes on me, me against the world. He was ready. He knew that these people was coming for him. So there was a lot of things. There's a lot of premonition that goes along where you could sense this danger, or you could sense, you know, these things that come around, these omens that reveal to you. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that go along with it. And as long as we have these ties and these relationships that are interdependent, you know, with our enemies, these types of things are going to continue to happen.
So they created an internal, a Killmonger created an internal strife within Wakanda, especially when they couldn't go through the duel as they once did to see who was the actual one that was privy to lead.
Hmm.
They thought he killed T'Challa and that he was the rightful leader to do what he had to do now. Yet at the same time, T'Challa was still alive. So you had the internal struggle, as you said, within them, and this brings about the war scene and stuff. So can you go into the internal struggle between us, the Killmonger type and the T'Challa type, and how that reflects to the real world, with even with a Tupac and a I guess you would say a Nas, someone who would say he would say what's the leader behind this, but yet Nas said him and Tupac was soldiers of the same struggle,
Hmm.
and then come back and do album with Marley, and they deal with tribal wars, how the tribe go out to fight everybody, then you come back, and next thing you know, the two brothers fighting the tribe, and then the two brothers fighting each other. So if you can speak to that, if that's a good lead into a conversation you can entertain.
Definitely. Uh, that was a perfect lead in. When you look at that film, when you look at that film, and even you go back to Dead Presidents, this is a militaristic assault on the black family, on the African family. This is they have to show our family in a way of dysfunction. They have to assassinate our character. Two cousins would have a strife, but they wouldn't tell you that the strife was a root cause from based off of T'Challa, exiling, Killmonger's character in the comic book. They put it ancestrally, between the two brothers. Now the two cousins are there at war. So seeing who is fit to lead. So this internal fight within, the body or within the blood that had never been redeemed. So, the scripture speaks about the sins of the father coming visiting the children. So these are the children. These are the next generation to have to assume this. And the part that you're speaking of in the film was very critical and key because T'Challa wasn't supposed to return. His father and all his ancestors was there, and they said it was time for him to return and be with him in the ancestor realm. And no African that purports to come and practice an African culture or African tradition would ever use a tone that he used or that was projected for him to use in the film against their ancestors. Ancestral veneration is very, very prominent and key in African culture. And if they studied this African culture like they did, which they did, they would know no way in the world that would fly. So again, that's that external influence to show him using a tone that was accusatory and disrespectful to his ancestors. You see what I'm saying? So it's instead of him accepting, what was the divine decree of his ancestors, he said, no, I got to go back and fix this. I can't rest here with you. I have to right this wrong. This is a monster of our own creation. So he went back. And he didn't, go back in a way that would be honorable to his people. He went back in a way that they showed that was contrary to his people. You see what I'm saying? So that he went back with his own idea for his own, idea, his own ideology, but it wasn't his. It was the mind of our enemy projected in, through his mouth. You see what I'm saying? So he would go back and fight and kill his cousin and leave himself exposed to the rest of the world. And leave Wakanda exposed to the brilliance and the beauty and the aka the natural resources of Africa, its people and its natural resources, the things that were coming out of the ground. 83 to 87% of the world's population survives and thrives off of Africa's resources. So even the Starbucks situation, the coffee comes from Africa and South America. Two places highly concentrated with African people. So these two African people couldn't go into the damn store to have a business meeting in the place where they got a stock in. They got a stock in. They got a stake in. They survive based off of this connection to Africa and South America.
Well, let's deal with the fact that, like we say, in the cinematic world, and how the Black Panther, trampled the cinematic world and the Marvel universe, and now they trying to say it's an Infinity War, and you see some of the and stuff, and you see him in the head of the women security. I can't say the name of them. But anyway, she was like, I didn't know that this what you was talking about when you talking about opening Wakanda up to the rest of the world and stuff, and they
Right.
showed everybody in Wakanda,
Right.
you know, going, getting ready to go to war and all of that. What do you
Right.
think about?
And she said maybe a Starbucks, right?
Yeah,
Yes, you see that in literary art it's called foreshadowing. You see what I'm saying? So you go back and you look at this this film and this relationship right there. You see more of the satire is coming along in the film now, and there's room for another type of suggestion that goes along there. You see what I'm saying? So again, back to that scene, that fight scene, that internal fight. Even with Nas and Tupac, we know that they met up in real life, and he's like, they got some things straight, and Suge intentionally left the diss record, the diss track, for Nas on the album. He didn't take it off, So it was a whole nother type of situation, where they met in Central Park. Again, so it was a whole, that was another type of situation that was there. Snoop was talking about it. So, this internal strife, this external influence caused internal strife. So with the advent of this agent, just like when they brought Bucky into Wakanda. Now, Bucky's still alive. Bucky's coming out in Infinity Wars. You see what I'm saying? So, you got these Avengers again, coming to, and this war is being fought in Africa, for Africa in real life. So this war is being fought on the screen, projecting an image of a foreign entity coming in with this infinity stone type of situation for the future of Africa, because he who controls Africa controls the planet, who controls the universe. That's why they got this Marvel comic universe type of situation that's being another picture that's being painted. So they're marveling at the greats of our people, and they're using it to exploit our people. You see what I'm saying? So this is the subtlety of technology that comes amongst people and whispers into their ear. So the stuff that got started, this internal strife that goes between two family members, was perpetuated by this agent whispering in his ear, because Claude whispered in his ear in the interrogation room. He said, "What do you know about Wakanda?" He didn't know a damn thing about Wakanda, which was foolish and which was disingenuous within itself, because you're talking about a CIA operative and their job is to keep their eyes on all over the world, and they wouldn't know what was going on in Wakanda. But that's the subtlety of the nature type of situation. Back to Stan Lee taking the earnings and saying, keeping them for safekeeping. Saying, you got people thinking that they coming to see something that's in their best interest, and it's something that's for their detriment. So that's that sleight of hand. That's that the digitation that's being shown there with this magician's wand. You're looking at something and you think you got it, and boom, misdirection is being used in another type of way. So they can use a film and have you puffed up about a film, and in real life, this is what they got going on. This is what the real agenda is going on. You see what I'm saying? They don't want to have to go through no middleman no more. They want, if you got control of the continent, you got control of the products and the resources and where it goes and how it's distributed and what you pay for it and all of that stuff. So this is a whole nother type of business, and you got uh, companies like Green Bean that's in the war effort. And you look at this war effort, you see where Starbucks fits into this war effort and all of these things that are going on, and this continual and perpetual cycle that continues to loom, from the continent and from the Americas. The greatest thing that they was able to pull off in this film was that they were able to show this estranged relationship between the Africans in the Americas and the Africans on the continent, and why these two things could never happen again. With this, Black Panther, type of vibe, there was brothers and sisters in America that was doing what they did in Dead Presidents and what they were planning to do uh, in the Black Panther film, robbing banks and sending money to Africa for the Africans on the continent to organize to be able to gain their independence. So if you look between 57 and 1970, Africans on the continent were gaining on the West African region of the continent was gaining their independence. Their funding was coming from America. Their funding to fight these wars and to gain their independence and overthrow their oppressors was coming from America. And again, that's background information that we don't get taught. We don't get taught about the Africans who fought during the entire slave trade process. You don't get that information. You don't hear about the insurrections that were happening on plantations. You only hear about one or two of them. There were hundreds of them. You understand what I'm saying? There was a bunch of things that were going on. So that warrior effort and spirit, that internal battle started off as an external battle. So the internal battle comes out of a dissatisfaction of not knowing about us, taking it to our enemy. You see? And Chidaka said something when he assumed the throne. He said something, to the effect of, where I come from, when our people wanted to overthrow their oppressors, they were always outnumbered and outgunned. Where was Wakanda? So the Africans in America, this type of situation paints and sets the stage to say, where was Africa when we were going through what we were going through in the Americas? You see what I'm saying? So that type of subtle approach to, project a real life conversation into a cinematic form to where it's just a movie, but there's no such thing as it's just a movie. Juice wasn't just a movie. Colors wasn't just a movie. Strap wasn't just a movie. Uh, what's the other joint? South Central wasn't just a movie. All these things were reflective of real life atrocities where the population of our people, the lives and homes, and brother against brother and sister against sister and mother against mother and father against father, all out war, just like they showed on that screen. They showed it on the screen and it was so natural. It looked natural. It wasn't even a detail that people were speaking about in the film. They were fighting, trying to kill one another, and it was just a unified people. So this is what our future looks like. We still got internal strife in the future with all the technological advancements and all of the greatness and everybody living their life great. We still have a situation where which a foreign entity can be brought into where we are, and we go to war with one another. One of our enemies could be brought into the scene, and we could go to war with one another. And our enemy can have a place in determining our future and our destiny and destroying weapons that were meant to liberate people, Africans all over the planet. And that gets a pass. And that looks like it's a great film, and it's heroic. And this is something that we're able to do. And the only people that T'Challa's character fought and killed in the film was black people, and this was the Black Panther. This is our king. Is this your king? You understand what I'm saying? This is the question. Is this your king? You see what I'm saying? So this is the type of situation that comes through and that that resonates. Again, our enemies decide who our rulers are and the type of rulers that they will accept and the type of ruling leadership that they would accept. Someone who sees them as an ally and sees their own people as an enemy. So we have to pay very close attention to that and not be disillusioned and sidetracked, by the song and dance that's being perpetuated out there. African women being disrespected, African women being dishonored, African women being tortured and molested and sold into sex trafficking and sex farms and things like that. All of these things, all these atrocities happening in our homes. And we're dealing in a space of individuality contrary to our very nature of collectivism. There's a whole bunch of things going on. Our children are not even being included in the process. Our children are being included in the process when it comes to our disruption in our our disillusion, in the forms of these medication and all these other labeling things. They're labeling our children. You see what I'm saying? They're snatching our children out of, flipping them out of desk and arresting them and taking them to prison. Children, our children. You see what I'm saying? And we're on public platforms going against our own children. talking about them and the mumble rap and the drill rap and all these other things, and you ain't give them no damn guidance. You ain't give them nothing to be proud of or proud for. They angry as hell and they ready for war. So that war begins out of the dissatisfaction of not having a positive self-image or a connection to our history, our traditions, our culture, our riches, our greatness. So all you see is devastation. Tell me what's a black light word? A bottle with juice is no excuse. The truth hurts. That prediction of a Trayvon Martin's death. You see what I'm saying? All of these things come together and they come into a fold to see a mind. How many Trayvons have died? How many Jonathan Jacksons have died? How many George Jacksons have died? This image of this young black male. How many Sandra Blands have died? You understand what I'm saying? When you start looking this image of this young African woman, how is she pervaded around? Who is she compared with? They dying on surgery tables and things like that to look like, what this dog perpetuates as beauty, dying on operating tables to get injections and all this other foolishness that's going on. There's a lot to be said in this perpetual self-image and how you see yourself, the digital representation of your physical self. So if they control what's being digitized and what's being monetized and what's being supported, you'll have these folks that are out here doing all of these other things other than self, acting contrary and other than self.
All right, well, let's sum it up for him, brother. We had a long conversation, about with so much detail and stuff. We don't need to give them another hour because they're not gonna be able to digest all of this, home cooking or soul cooking today. So let's wrap it up. And people will be back some other time to bring something to you. So until next time. But we're gonna let the brother close out and share the show if you like it. If not, thumb it down. It counts just as much as a thumb up. Just don't share
Right.
it. You know what I'm saying? YouTube might get smart and put a thumbs down dislike like I dislike this video, but I'm gonna share it so you can watch it and hate on it too. But anyway, we had a good show. Hopefully, once again, like I said, y'all learned something from it, and you can share the knowledge and understanding and comprehension, or open up the dialogue yourself somewhere else. But with that said, I'm gonna shut my mouth and get back to my brother and let him close out.
Yeah, salute. Salute to you, Israel Doctrine, and salute to your listening audience for having the time and the patience and the type of care that's necessary to, have these, conversations and, continue on to move better in a, consistent manner. We need to work with our children. We need to love on our children. Those of us who have their identity, we need to share and start in our homes and start with our families and teach them who they are and where they come from. Learn about your families, teach them about the richness and greatness of their families so they don't see idols from outside. They become validated from the inside out. So the outside external influences don't influence them in the way that they have been. We have a chance to right, the wrongs of our past. We can do this every day with our children. This is where everything begins. The Bible says charity begins at home. So what is more charitable than to teach your children who they are and where they come from? And if you don't know, it'd be a good opportunity for y'all to learn as a family, and everybody contribute to these things and, begin to have these courageous conversations about who you are. And that propels them into a future time where which they're not interdependent on anybody other than themselves to solve their own problems when these things come up, and, adversity comes. On the other side of adversity is greatness. We're in a very adverse time and there's a lot of things, that are unknowns, but there are knowns that are there. We can deal with the knowns and we have, creative talents and skills and will to be able to overcome these challenges that come as a situation where upgrade takes place. You know, struggle is the criterion of greatness, you know, as reported by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we've been struggling for a long time. So greatness is on the other end of that struggle, but it begins in the preparation. You know, we cannot be afraid to have these conversations about our children, you know, or with our children, because if we don't have them, they're going to be having them in somebody's body bag, in somebody's mental institution, or in the back of someone's cop car. You understand? Or on the way to someone's, you know, medical institute. So we have to begin to, you know, include our children in what they're being exposed to and explain it to them and break it down to them and show them that crafty type of subtle role and how it creeps in and how, you know, these things are becoming a part of their life, and they're prepared. They want to hear it from you. They don't want stuff from you, they want you. So give them you. Stop giving them so much stuff and start giving them more you. Again, like if you're not in a position to where you know everything about where you are, who you are, and where you come from, make that a finding fact, make that a family project, make that a goal that you can ascertain, something that you can achieve. You start working towards it. You see what I'm saying? And get ready and get prepared, and, you know, start training and get their mind prepared for the type of environment that they're going, you know, to be a part of and that they already exist in. You can give them the tools. You see what I'm saying? You know, the scripture says again, behold, I send you out as sheep amidst the wolves. There are wolves out there that are waiting for them. So you're going to send them out there. You send them out there ready. Send them out there prepared. You know, and you could come to platforms like this, you know, Black Intelligentsia, the Live 365. You can come to Do Knowledge Radio. We have over 700 shows, archives full. You know, you can go to places like Black I Stand Radio. Shout out to my brother Jay Dizzle. You could go to My Skin is My Sin radio. Shout out to my brother Jobs and Queen Afi. You can go to, you know, platforms like my sister Renee and Psychopathias. Go with the rundown. Go out there to these people that are out here that are giving out, you know, this information and jewels that, you know, are preparing us, you know, for a future. You know, if you're not speaking about children, you're not speaking about a future conversation. If you're not speaking about a future conversation, then you're stuck in a state where which you will never grow and progress. You see what I'm saying? We have a situation, you know, called a Sankofa. We look back to move forward. So we study our past to be able to go into our future. You see, so our ancestors left these archival data and all of this information for us to use to empower us to grow into our best self with our best character and our best state of being so we can continue on and perpetuate life. One thing we know about African people or Black people, we are life affirming and we participate in life affirming activity. So if you're around people that don't affirm life and they're doing things contrary to life affirming type of behavior, we know that these people aren't the people that we need to, you know, truly associate ourselves with, you know. And it's a time in the day where which we have to be in the advocacy of Black life in the future. You see what I'm saying? You know, life affirming, life that creates life that continues to perpetuate life, you know. So again, thank you, you know, for your time and for your attention and for the opportunity. Salute to my big brother Israel Doctrine. You know, keep that fire lit, man, and keep being that good watchman that you are, my brother.
I appreciate the time and the information and the convo, man. You know, it's something picking out there because there's been a lot of talk about the Black Panther, but you know, a lot of people are not critically looking at it with their critical eye and trying to really see what it's all about. So hopefully everybody appreciate it, share it, and you know, like I said, bounce on to get in touch with you with the brother. Once again, he told you, you know, avenues and lanes to get in touch with him. And you know, that's the day, people. We're gonna say peace and, you know, prosperity to those who you know, at peace and, you know, work at peace.
If I could say one more thing before I go, I made a lot of references to African and African culture and African traditional spiritual systems and African traditional religion. So if you're interested in any of those things, to have an understanding of some of the things, some of the good points that came out of the film that were being displayed, you can hit up my brother. He is the chief priest of Haninsu. He deals with Nile Valley culture and Kemetic science, and he has authored three wonderful books. One is The Key to Eden. One is Avenging Osir, and the other one is Remembering Osir. Y'all can go to www.haninsu.com and get these wonderful sacred texts from my brother, Chief Priest, Uncle Benu. Hopefully, you get a chance, Israel, to have my brother on your platform. Wise brother, wise beyond his years, and really looking at this, from an African-centered perspective and living in a traditional African way of life. So those that were interested in whomever that applies to amongst the listener audience, make sure y'all go to www.haninsu.com and get this sacred text entitled Remember No Seer. So I just wanted to say that real quick.
All right, y'all. With that said, we out. Peace.
Peace.